connected, so we are going to start. Welcome to this, our first technical conference of the year, organized by Northeast Mexico chapter. And as I have told you before, we, as an ACI chapter, we are committed with ACI's mission that is to develop, disseminate, and advance in the adoption of knowledge on concrete and its uses. That's why we add special attention on the topics of our conferences. This because we really want to bring you high quality events with technical information to bring you the opportunity to learn something new and to be related with new advances, technologies related obviously with concrete construction. Today's conference is named Qatar Infraestructura and the World Cup 2022 Stadiums. This presentation is about the major infrastructure undertaken by the state of Qatar in order to be ready for the 2022 FIFA World Cup. And this presentation will be in charge by Mr. Khaled Awad. He's the chairman and founder of ACTS, that means Advanced Construction and Technological Services, a material testing and geotechnical consulting firm based in Beirut, Lebanon, and operating in Qatar, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, Oman, India, Rwanda, and several other countries of the Middle East and Africa. He is past president of the American Concrete Institute, ACI, and an active member of ACI, serving on Certification Programs Committee, International Advisory Committee, ACI Board Chairs Committee, and the International Certification Subcommittee, of which he is a past chair and was a trustee of the ACI Foundation. He is also a member of many ACI technical committees and received the ACI Henry Kennedy Award in 2007. Awad worked in the real estate and construction industry in the Arabian Gulf for more than 30 years. He was the founder and CEO of various construction and real estate companies dealing with the supply chain and information technology side of the industry, as well as the development of large-scale projects. Awad was the founding director of property development at the Masdar Initiative. Masdar is a multi-phased initiative advancing the development, commercialization, and deployment of renewable and alternative energy technologies and solutions. He oversaw the development of emission-free Masdar City, the world's first development aiming to become carbon neutral. He's a civil engineer from the American University in Beirut, Lebanon, and his MBA is in business administration from the Lebanese University, Beirut in Lebanon. Awad is also a member of the American Society of Civil Engineers and the American Society of Testing Materials International, and a fellow of the United Kingdom Institute of Concrete Technology. At the end of the presentation, we will have a question and answer section. The process to make questions is to write it in the meetings chat, and I will take it from there. Now it's time to turn it over to Mr. Khaled Awad to start his presentation.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Khaled Awad. Thank you very much for the introduction. When I was president of ACI, as you know, when you are president, you travel around the world. And the highlights of my presidency in 2017, 2018 was my trip to Mexico. This was, I went through the whole Mexico from Tijuana to Cancun and every single city in the middle, except Mexico Northeast chapter. This is the only chapter I did not visit at that time, but I have visited everybody else. So maybe I have still a chance to come and visit you there, hopefully when all this pandemic is over. My talk today is about the infrastructure and the transformational work that Qatar is going through to prepare for the World Cup 2022 stadiums and beyond, actually. So I'll talk about a little bit of background about Qatar and then the stadiums and the infrastructure that's going around with it and some of the challenges we faced there. So just to begin, Qatar is in the Middle East. It is a small country in the Middle East with less than 3 million people in population. So maybe they fit all in a couple of streets in Mexico City, and with 10% less than 10% of local people. So the Qataris are actually less than 10% of the total population. And Qatar is known to be one of the richest countries in the world per capita. So the income per capita is around $70,000, the latest numbers I have, and a GDP of $200 billion. And the reason why Qatar is rich, because it is one of the top 3 exporters of gas, with more than 27% of the total world exports. So it's between Russia and Qatar. You can see always that they are number 1 or number 2. I want to thank some of the partners that helped me put the presentation, mainly my company ACTS, but also the Supreme Committee for Delivery and Legacy, which is supervising and overseeing the development of the stadiums, and the Public Works Authority called Ashghal, and the Rail Authority, which was responsible for all the network of trains. So just some background about all this. In 2008, Qatar launched Qatar National Vision 2030. The aim was to transform Qatar into an advanced society capable of achieving sustainable development by 2030. So the whole idea was to make Qatar something modern, and to do that, they had 4 pillars. The main pillars for this vision was human development, social development, economic development, and environmental development. So one of the important part of the discussion today is how the infrastructure component came into the vision. For example, they had an airport that barely had 5 million passengers in 2008. In 2014, they completed the first phase, and the airport now can accommodate 30 million passengers. They had a port capacity of less than 1 million 20-foot container equivalent unit, the TEU. And in 2016, their port was expanded to become a 7.5 million TEU. Now they have a plan to make the airport 50 million passengers in 2030, and the port to be 12 million TEU by 2030. So we will be talking today about the stadiums, but other than the stadiums, there are so many other developments that went through in Qatar. The Lusail city is a completely new city north of the capital of Qatar, which is Doha. It's around 25 kilometers from Doha. And it was supposed to accommodate 500,000 people in the next 10 years. Another project was a mega reservoir project with 5 different locations with 15 reservoirs. You know, Qatar doesn't have water, so they desalinate all the water. On top of that, they wanted to make sure that they have water security facilities, and this is why they developed the water mega reservoir projects, which I'll be talking about in a while also during the presentation. Another component was the metro part, which is consisting of 3 lines, the gold, green, and red lines, with 40 stations and 2 major stations in the whole country. And that was taking around a length of 76 kilometers of metro lines. Another project related to the transportation is the tram lines, which is the Lusail light rail transit line with 37 stations, around 33.1 kilometers of lines. Part of the infrastructure is, of course, the road network. So they had the Sabah Al Ahmad corridor, which links the airport with the expressway. Expressway is a huge transportation road infrastructure in Qatar. It is one of the biggest infrastructure projects related to road construction in the world. And one of the components is Sabah Al Ahmad corridor. It consists of 37 kilometers of roadworks. There is the new orbital highway. It's another component of the expressway project. Again, it's like a freeway. You can move up to 200 kilometers, 195 kilometers without any stoppage. It connects the south and north of Qatar, and it has different levels of interchanges, up to 21 levels. The G Ring Road, which is a ring road, as it is mentioning, it is also part of the expressway program project, and it accesses you to the industrial area and to the logistics area. It has also 22 kilometers of roadwork. So all these infrastructure projects were undertaken in Qatar as part of the 2008 Qatar National Vision, of the 2030 Qatar National Vision, which was established in 2008. Let's talk about the stadiums now. So we will be talking about 8 stadiums, 7 totally new stadiums, and 1 renovated stadium, which was an existing one. So initially, when Qatar won the bid to organize the Qatar 2022 World Cup, FIFA World Cup series, they initially bid for building 12 stadiums. But then when they found out the cost and time that this will take them, in 2014, they decided to make it 8 stadiums, and FIFA accepted based on the fact that the same infrastructure will be there, the accommodation, the logistics will be there to take care of all the requirements that FIFA had. So there was no change in the total investment that Qatar will do. Just the matter of the stadiums was reduced to 8. The main component of why Qatar won the bid in 2010 was that Qatar promised to make these stadiums very sustainable with a very low carbon footprint, and most importantly, it will give 170,000 seats out of the stadiums when the World Cup is over to other countries in Africa. And even they committed to demount 1 total stadium. So one of the 8 stadiums will be completely demounted and taken out to another country. And I'll show which stadium is there when I talk about it. So the total investment for the stadium is around $10 billion. That includes the 8 stadiums and the adjacent infrastructure. We're not talking about the major infrastructure projects that I mentioned, it's just about the infrastructure related to the stadiums. And the planning of these stadiums were done in 3 ways. There is first the planning and construction phase between 2010 and 2020. During the World Cup, which is the 2021-2022 mode, and 2023, the handover phase. And ultimately, what will happen to these stadiums after? So part of their bid was to show that there is a legacy mode, that these stadiums will not be deserted and nobody will be in them, because, you know, Qatar is a small country and there will be no way to fill these stadiums after the World Cup. So they had to show also what will be the legacy mode after the stadiums are done. So what Qatar said in their bid is that in addition to the fact that they will be awarding, or they will be gifting 170,000 seats, they said all the upper tiers of the stadiums will be built in a way that they could be removed and converted into other amenities. So when you come to the stadium, on the top of the stadium, once the World Cup is finished, you will see different aspects of the use of the facility. Let's say you will have shops and malls and cycling areas inside these stadiums. And that was a very powerful bid component to the bidding committee in the FIFA. And so that donation of the seats and that sustainability component, and the fact that they will be renovating all these top part of the stadiums with new amenities, helped Qatar win the bid, and also showed that even with the reduced capacity, when they donate the seats and when they give out one of the stadiums, the remaining part of the stadium will be such a nice atmosphere that it has never been done before. So you come to the stadium not just to watch a football game, but you can come and actually do other things inside the stadium. And this is something that was totally new, that a stadium becomes a visiting place whether there is a football game or not. So total 8 stadiums, as I mentioned. So in Al Khor, there was one. Al Khor is you can see it on the top north part of the country. In Lusail, there is one, the new city, which is being built. And in Doha, there are 4. Doha is the capital. And 2 are remote stadiums. One is in the Al Bayt, and the other one is Al Wakra. And between Al Wakra in the south and Al Bayt, sorry, this is Al Wakra and Al Bayt, there is 145 kilometers. So again, this is the first time that all the stadiums are within 150 kilometers altogether from each other. And that imposes a huge infrastructure and logistics challenge, because people have to commute and go from one place to the other, hotels, transportation. So that's why the infrastructure component of the World Cup is even more important than the stadium themselves. The most iconic stadium is the Lusail City Stadium. Lusail, as I mentioned, is the new city that they are building. This is the stadium which will host the opening and the final game. And it is having a capacity of 86,400 seats. So it's a huge stadium which has cost $767 million. It started in 2017, and last year, 8 months ago, they actually opened. There are still some minor work going on, but the project is overall finished. It will host, as I said, the initial and final game, and it is inspired by the old Arabic lanterns that they used to have to move the ships or to move between in the desert. So this is going to be transformed in the top part of it as a community space with schools, even in the stadium. So there will be schools, shops, cafes, sporting facilities inside the stadium, and the top part, which will be removed, as I said, as part of their design. And hopefully that stadium will become not just a sports arena, but also a destination for entertainment and for going out in Qatar. And one of the most important part of all these stadiums that they have calculated all their carbon footprint, and they made sure that the total carbon footprint of all the stadium construction is going to be zero. And I'll show you how they did that at the end. So this is a completed stadium. It used ACI 318, the building code, for their concrete design. The service life of the stadium is 60 years, and we did a lot of modeling to make sure that this is actually being achieved. They used a 45 to 60 MPa concrete in different sections, and it took more than 150,000 cubic meters. The second one is Al Bayt Stadium, which is in Al Khor, in the north part of Qatar. And it is still under construction, 60,000 seats, $850 million. And it started in 2015. It should have been opened in the end of 2019, but I think it will be opened in the next 2 months. This is one of the other important stadiums in terms of sustainability, because it scored 3 out of 4 in the global sustainability assessment system. So what Qatar did, the GSAS, which is the global sustainability assessment system, is a general sustainability rating system like LEED and other rating systems that was approved by FIFA to be used for all the stadiums. And Qatar showed that each stadium will score very high on this sustainability system. The design of the stadium is like a Bedouin tent. So it's like a tent in the desert. So there's a canvas-like facade. And the stadium, after the World Cup is over, the upper tier will be removed, and the stadium will have just 32,000 seats. So out of the initial 60,000 seats, 28,000 will be donated, and it will be used by the local Al Khor club. There will be, after the World Cup, there will be a 5-star hotel with all the facilities of that. So inside the stadium, you will have a hotel as well. The Al Bayt Stadium was quite challenging in terms of the facade, and because of the design nature, the tent design nature. And more than 2,500 modular seats at the north stand were put. The facade membrane was PTFE, around 300,000 cubic meters of concrete, including the infrastructure around it, and around 39,000 tons of steel. So in the covering, the steel covering for the stadium is 17,400 tons. Again, 318 was used, but also some Eurocode for specific requirements of steel. And the service life is 50 years. They use different types of cement in different sections of the concrete of the project, and 285,000 cubic meters. Al Janoub Stadium. Al Janoub is the south stadium. It is the furthest stadium south in Al Wakra area. It is completed, 40,000 seats, $775 million. So you see the difference between the cost is always related to the architectural design more than the actual number of seats. It started in 2014. It was opened last year, 2 years ago, and Zaha Hadid was the famous architect for that project. And again, it had a Class A rating by the Global Sustainability Assessment Standard, and it has all the shading and the aerodynamics for the mechanical ventilation system to use the impact of the heat. Initially, Qatar was supposed to have all these stadiums functional in the middle of the summer. But then the cost of having air conditioning and other things came in, and they tried to reduce it by increasing shadow. But when FIFA inspected Qatar in summer in the 2011, 2012, they said there is no way we can do this World Cup in summer. Even if you do all the shading, it will be very difficult for people, not just in the stadium, but outside the stadium, to move in and out and stay in the streets. So FIFA gave an exception to Qatar to make the World Cup in the November-December period of 2022. So this is the first time that the World Cup will happen in the winter. So again, this was a very exceptional situation, and FIFA said, even if you do the stadiums in a very shaded way, all the ventilation system, even with air conditioning, this will not be good for the spectators and the audience, because they have to go out and in Qatar is very difficult to live in summer, because you have more than 45 degrees temperature all the summer in the city. Now, again, this top tier of this stadium will be transformed into schooling, wedding hall, cycling tracks, restaurants. So a new way of looking at it, not just as a stadium. Another record that was achieved on this stadium, the world record of laying the grass turf. As you know, the grass turf takes a lot of time. This grass turf of the stadium took 9 hours and 15 minutes. And the other part, that is the roof, was initially made with titanium dioxide to reflect all the temperature, and everything could be removed, could be retracted very quickly in case you wanted to use it in winter instead of the summer. So the whole area was developed around the stadium, not just the stadium. And even the roof was built using timber from Australia, sustainable timber from Australia, sustainably sourced timber from Australia. And the whole area now is complete. And I visited 6 months ago before the COVID, 9 months ago, and it was totally done. They used European standards for this project, service life of 50 years. They use surface-resistant cement, which is not usual in Qatar for many reasons, and 220,000 of cubic meter. I'll show you a little bit the video showing that particular project. 1 second. The other stadium is the Education City Stadium. Education City Stadium is in the Education City, which is a new city being developed in Doha. It is still under construction, 45,000 seats. It should have been opened 2020. It will be opened before June 2021. You know, the COVID has disrupted so many activities. It will host matches to the quarterfinals. They increased the seating capacity to 45,000. As part of the reduction of the number of stadiums. This was one of the stadiums that they have to increase the seats for. And under the legacy mode, so when the World Cup is completed, 20,000 seats will be donated to poor countries. And again, it had a 5-star on the GSAS sustainability rating. 186,000 cubic meter of concrete, and the whole concrete now is in place. The structure is finished. It was quite a complex construction, as you can see from the architectural design. They used ACI and European codes, and as well as the Qatar construction standards of 2014. And the service life for this particular stadium was 100 years with 240,000 cubic meter. Al Rayyan Stadium is a 40,000 seat stadium with $600 million. Started in 2015. It was opened late 2019. And it will host matches to the quarterfinals. Again, 4-star on the GSAS. It was actually replacing an existing stadium. And now the old stadium was taken out and the new stadium came. It looks like another large tent in the desert. It is a lot of, they did something from a sustainability point of view, is to use the demolished material from the old stadiums as much as possible in the new stadium. And the facade of the stadium will have a huge media show on it. So so they can make it also an outdoor event for projections and cinemas and other things. Half of the stadium's seats will be removed and donated again after the World Cup. More than 100,000 cubic meter and 6,700 tons of steel on in this project. And most of the structure, as I said, was finished last year. Using ACI 318 and Qatar construction standard, a service life of 60 years and 100,000 cubic meter. Al Wa'ab Stadium has 40,000 seats capacity, 90 million cost, and because it's a redevelopment. So it was the Khalifa International Stadium was actually the only stadium that was renovated. So there is no new construction except for the renovation part. And it was the first project to be finished. Again, it was highly rated on the sustainability standard, and the 12,000 seats will be donated as part of the legacy project. So this is a project where there was a huge lifting because of the steel tension cables and a huge lifting of panels. So 92 panels, which weighed a total of 4,000 tons, so around 40 tons per panel, 45 tons per panel. And they had to bring a special crane for that. The crane itself actually weighed 47 tons. And even they have to bring a very special operator to make sure that the crane can lift these panels. The panels were 47 tons and the crane itself was 600 tons. But the operation of the crane was very sensitive. That's why they brought a special operator who has done a similar project. And the total height is 100 meters above ground. It took 3 years to renovate the whole project. They used the European standards for that project, 50 years service life, and 170,000 cubic meter of concrete. Ras Abu Aboud Stadium, this is a very unique stadium. This is the stadium that will be completely demounted and sent back to another country. Qatar announced a few months back that they will be sending the whole stadium to an African country, I think it's Morocco. And so the whole stadium will be taken out. This stadium is actually made out of ship containers. So it's a whole steel, it's a total steel structure, but only steel containers in the stadium. So it's the first time that they build a stadium out of shipping containers. It has 40,000 seats, $600 million as an estimated cost, and started 2 years ago, and it will be finished hopefully before the end of the year. It's all modular, using the containers, as I said, and the recycled containers, as I said. It will be completely dismantled and sent in a ship to Morocco. Now, this is in the final stages of the project. It's actually going to consume more than 1,000 containers and 27,000 tons of steel for the construction of the stadium. They used Eurocode for that project as well, 50 years service life, and using 40 MPa concrete for the foundation. 30,000 cubic meter of concrete only because most of the structure is steel. Finally, the Thumama Stadium has 40,000 seats, $350 million approximate cost. It started in 2016 and it will open in 2020. The project is very locally inspired by local design. And this is one of the stadiums that was actually designed in total during the bid. The design was very ready during the bid, and it helped a lot Qatar win the the World Cup bid in 2010. So the number of seats will be reduced to 20,000, and the rest of the seats will be donated as part of their bid commitment. This project is practically finished. Around 85,000 cubic meters of concrete, 12.9 thousand tons of steel, huge area for formwork because of the design, and the facade is 24,000 square meters. They used ACI 318 and Eurocode with a 50-year service life and 50 MPa concrete. Now, this is as far as the stadiums are concerned. But as I said, because of their adjacency and being close and located in close to each other, the infrastructure requirements for the stadiums was even much bigger than the stadium itself. So let us talk about what happened on the infrastructure in Qatar. Just to give you an idea of the scale of what was going on, in 2017, the finance minister of Qatar said that Qatar was investing $500 million in infrastructure construction every week. So this was the rate at which infrastructure was being constructed and developed. And according to different studies, including MEAD, with the Middle East Digest that gives you the spending in each country, Qatar spent around 200 billion on infrastructure, 20 billion on roads, 40 billion on train and metro, 25 billion on the airport and Newport, 5 billion in the hospitality and hotels, and 30 billion in construction projects. A lot of these projects were done in a public-private partnership, but still the commitment of Qatar for that World Cup 2022 is actually the biggest ever that was done by any country. Let's talk about some of these projects. So one of them is the Idris, which is the Inner Doha Resewerage Implementation Strategy. One of the things you have to plan for when you talk about infrastructure is the sewage system. So there is a whole overhauling of the sewage system in the city to be able to accommodate a huge number of people in a very small and congested area. And it's a $3 billion project with around 45 kilometers of sewer network. And it will be completed in the next few months. The other huge program is the Expressway program. This is, I think, the biggest ever infrastructure project for roads in the world ever addressed. It is a key component of the whole transportation strategy of Qatar. It has $14 billion in budget. I think they exceeded the budget by at least 20% till now. This is the latest I heard. It has 51 separate projects. You know, when you have a big project, to be able to execute it, you would cut it into small projects so you can do it easily. And so out of that big project, 51 projects came out as the components of this project. So some of the projects of this big program was the Orbital Highway, Lusail Highway, the East-West Corridor. And this is going to be the backbone of the whole Qatar 2030 vision. The main point is to reduce traffic, or actually relieve the whole traffic, even during the World Cup, even with the metros. If you don't have roads and networks like this to transport people, it will be difficult to accommodate 3 million people, because Qatar has 3 million population. They are expecting at least 3 million visitors, now assuming the COVID and the pandemic is over, hopefully. And there's a huge array of underpasses and flyovers and multi-level interchanges to enable the free-flowing traffic. As part of this expressway, there was the new Orbital Highway. And the Orbital Highway is quite unique because it actually enables 8,000 light vehicles per hour and 1,500 trucks per hour. So they have different lanes for the trucks and the cars, and it can accommodate huge number at the same time. It is done in a very sustainable way, and it will be surrounding the capital of Qatar, Doha, from 3 sides. The project that is unique in Qatar is metro. The Gulf did not have a lot of metros in the past, and Qatar was one of the early countries to implement metros. And so Doha Metro is having 4 lines, 300 kilometers of running length, and 100 stations. Most of the metro work is now finished. The different lines are now being commissioned. And you can see these different lines, the red, green, and golden line in the metro project. Al Sharq Crossing is the new project, which will be starting soon, but they are still waiting to see if they want to start it before the World Cup. I don't think this will serve the World Cup. It is one of the biggest bridges ever done in the world. And this is a new infrastructure project that will connect the Doha airport with the north of the city. The nice part of it, it's a big bridge. And what they will do is that you can actually cross the bridge with, of course, with the car, but also they are going to have a funicular that will take people throughout the bridge, and you can have the funicular with glass around it, so you can actually see Doha from both sides when you are inside the bridge. So you can be transported through a funicular in addition to using cars and trains. Other notable projects are being undertaken. As I said, Qatar tried to be carbon neutral, and to do that, they developed an 800 megawatt solar plant, photovoltaic plant, that will take off all the carbon emission that is done through the construction. And they calculated that even with the 800 megawatt plant, the whole World Cup 2022 project, including the infrastructure, will be carbon neutral. Another big project being taken now, very similar to the Palm in Dubai, is Ketifan Island. It's going to be a man-made island in the south. There are two parts, the south and the north of it. And the final one is the Qatar National Museum project, which is going to be kind of an experimental project at the same time, because there are so many things that will come and go, like different museums coming, world museums coming and using this museum for a year or two. So it's going to be a very fancy way of showing antiques and pictures and other things by using all the museums of the world. And you can see from the design that it is quite a fancy and sophisticated design. So these projects have been planned and designed, and Qatar is the solar plant is actually finished. The other projects are going to start very soon. Now, these projects did not happen without any problem. So all of these projects had issues and challenges. The main important challenge when you are in the Gulf, especially in places like Qatar, where you have airborne salts because of the ocean, hot weather concrete, high humidity, all these constraints make construction very difficult. And that's why with the fast track project and no tolerance for delays, no possibility for changing in the original design, but they actually had to change it because they reduced the number of stadiums. So this was all putting a lot of pressure on the construction and on the number of working hours for everybody. So for example, the 7 stadiums will be within 55-kilometer radius out of the 8. For example, as a comparison, Germany, they had 400 kilometer in between stadiums, South Africa 700 kilometer, Brazil 1400 kilometer, whereas Doha is 55 kilometer. Although it's a big advantage because you're very close between one stadium and the other, it's very difficult to move people and serve them within such a very congested area. So just one city like Al Rayyan, which is here, will have around 3 stadiums that are 15 to 40 minutes apart. So one of the other challenges is the project that we're going at the same time of the World Cup. So one of them is the Qatar National Library, which is a very fancy design done by Zaha Hadid again. And the slab has to be actually poured upside down because of the shape of the building. It's 2 square plates, 138 meter wide each, and pulled apart and folded diagonally. So the concrete quantity was not very big, but quite challenging to be poured. And this is the view of the library from the inside. And we were part of this project in the quality control part. There are so many trials and mock-ups that had to be done for thermal mass management, thermal mass modeling, making sure that the concrete will be fair face. So all this had to be tried before. And of course, the way to pour the slab was another challenge. Another one is the water facilities. I talked about the water reservoirs in the beginning, and Qatar was trying to do pre-stressed concrete tank reservoirs to build them quickly, so they can actually have 620,000 cubic meters of water and around 2.5 gigawatt of electricity, which is around 25% of the daily demand of Qatar. So this is all going to be stored and available in the reservoirs. So total volume of concrete in 4 tanks out of the 15 that were going to be built is 50,000 cubic meter and 2,000 cubic meter of shotcrete. So the design life for these reservoirs is 100 years. We're using AWWA standards with pre-stressed standards on the project. Each reservoir had 35 million gallon capacity, so around 159,000 cubic meter of water will be stored in it. And it has 208 columns supporting a huge flat roof with a circumferential pre-stressing more than 1,000 tons at 2,000 kilometers of galvanized strand. So everything was applied with an automatic robot for the mechanical force, and I can show you. So that gives you an idea about the construction of the water tanks. The expressway was the Lusail Expressway, which is linking the new city of Lusail to the capital. And it took 5.5 years to construct it with 686,000 cubic meter of cast-in-place concrete and precast. 6 meter deep reinforced concrete foundations, so huge mass concrete, 9,000 ton of steel, R-scape, double arches. As you can see them, this will be the iconic view of the expressway with these arches that are like the symbol of this project. And more than 906 bridge beams, custom designed. So they use trenchless methodology, so with all concrete precast pipe jacking, microtunnels for wet and dry utilities have been used. And there was 6 vehicle and 1 rail tunnel and deep concrete boxes. So they are all below the water table with 2 to 3 meter thick base slabs, just to make sure that there is a proper management for buoyancy and pressure. So that's why the concrete was very special and very durable, because it is, again, a very long service life project. And 2 flyover piers constructed with 3,824 cubic meter of concrete without any joint, which was quite a challenge. That's why they poured it in a 22-hour hot weather concrete environment. I'll show you again a time lapse of this project. So if I how Qatar was before this World Cup plan and where it is today. So in 2010, there was around 2,500 kilometers of highways. Qatar has today already 8,500 kilometers of highways. The local roads were 9,500 kilometers. Now they are 34,000 kilometers. They had 160 bridges. Now they have 200 new bridges, with a lot of them very big. So not just the number of bridges, but the size of the bridges. They had 2 tunnels. They have 32, 400 bus stations, 2,000 today, 0 kilometers of metro, 84 kilometers as of today with 38 stations. And they had 3 stadiums. Now they have 10, and they will be using 8 for the World Cup. So that tells you the scale of the undertaking Qatar went through. And hopefully we can see you all in Qatar in 1.5 years from now, in November 2022. Hopefully everything will be done and finished, or even less than 1.5 years actually from now. So thank you very much for your attention, and I'm happy to take any of your questions.
Thank you so much, Mr. Khaled, for your presentation. It's really an honor for us to get this kind of presentation, especially coming from someone with experience and knowledge you have. It's amazing how you are working on having everything under control, all the details needed to organize these kind of events like the World Cup. And it's a really, really interesting presentation. We have some questions that I'll read it to you. From Mariana Carrillo, it said, was it difficult to find construction materials to build that stadiums?
Yeah, I mean, most of the materials, the main important materials were imported. So it was quite a logistical nightmare to import timber, let's say from Australia, steel from Ukraine, from Turkey, from different countries around the world. So there was a kind of logistical issue. And one of the reasons they had to increase the port capacity was to be able to import such materials for the World Cup stadiums. So yes, it was a challenge, but because everything was imported, there is very little being constructed locally.
Okay. We have another question from Juan Arenas. It says, which one do you consider is the greatest challenge about building stadiums?
2 things. First is you want to make sure the design is ready, because once you start in a stadium, it's very difficult to make changes. It's not like a building where you can bring down a wall or something. So you have to make sure that the design is totally complete. All the details of the design should be complete and there is no change, and the client knows exactly that this is the final product, because the variation is, normally in a project you have a variation order. In airport, you change something, you can do this, you can do that. In a stadium, especially if you are under a timeline, it's very, very difficult to do that. The second thing, in this particular instance of Qatar, because the stadiums had to be half remodeled, so half the top part of the stadiums will actually be used in the future for other things, for entertainment and schools and other things. So you had to make sure that the construction has taken all these provisions from the beginning for the future. So this is another challenge they had. And of course, the working in hot weather is another challenge when you are in a fast-track project like the stadiums.
Yeah. Actually, I'm impressed about the Al-Bayt Stadium, especially with the fact that after the World Cup, it will be used as a 5-star hotel. Yeah, I think this is the way I have ever seen of how to reuse the infrastructure constructed to this kind of events. This to avoid this structure to get abandoned, as have already happened in other countries.
Yes.
Okay, we have another question. It's from Carlos Núñez. It says, which special concrete additives were used most frequently in the construction of stadiums?
So in the foundations, most of the foundations had slag, ground granulated blast furnace slag in it for the mass concrete management. So if this is the question, of course, all the concrete had super plasticizers, but for the concrete and the substructure and the foundations, all concrete had either fly ash or slag, mostly had slag, and all was imported. So just for information, even in Qatar, a lot of the aggregate is imported because Qatar is a small country. They don't have mountains to get proper aggregates. So even aggregates were imported. Cement actually is imported. So everything is imported there because of the nature of the country. But the additives were mainly cementitious materials in addition to the cement to make sure that there is a heat control and heat dissipation control for mass concrete and for hot weather concrete. But all concrete had super plasticizers to make sure that the flowability of the concrete was there, especially with the pictures of the congested steel that you saw. You needed to have highly flowable concrete. Now, a lot of the concrete, especially the one for the 100-year service life, had silica fume as well, around 7%, to make sure you have durable concrete.
Okay. Here comes a very interesting question from Santiago Vélez. It says, how did you deal with the construction process during this pandemic?
Well, I tell you something, Qatar did not do any lockdown. They just closed the airports. So the Qatar, there was no lockdown. There was very strict conditioning of the distance, the social distancing or physical distancing of the workers. They worked in shifts, so they had 2 shifts all the time to reduce the number of people in the same project. A lot of the work was done like in all the projects like it was before, so very little disruption. So they closed their airport. Everybody who was coming to Qatar was not allowed to come anymore, except with a very special big permission. Until now, it's the same. If you go to Qatar, you must stay 14 days in a hotel. So you buy the hotel booking along with your ticket. You cannot go to Qatar otherwise. But the work inside the country stayed as it was. Now, Qatar is actually 3 million people. Half of them got COVID already. So they are already in the herd immunity system currently.
Thank you. Another one from Carlos Garcia. It says, what was the maximum resistance of concrete used in the stadiums?
So we reached 80 MPa. The maximum strength required was 60 MPa. So there was no high strength concrete. One of the project had 60 MPa, but most of them had 45, 50 MPa concrete. So we were reaching 80 MPa in many cases, but the maximum requirement in the stadium was 60 MPa. As you know, in a concrete stadium, you don't have very demanding high strength concrete. I mean, 60 MPa is especially in the pre-stressing, you might have some higher requirement for concrete strength, but normally in a stadium you are not like a high-rise building or something.
Okay. And it's actually not a question, but it's a comment from Arturo Aitan. It says that right now the Mexican soccer team Tigres from the University of Nuevo León is playing in Al Rayyan Stadium in Qatar.
Oh, excellent.
A World Cup.
Very good.
Yeah. Well,
very good. So say hi to my friend Arturo then.
Okay, he's listening to you.
So I hope you can all visit, because it will be an exciting event, not just from the football part, but just to visit all these facilities.
Okay, thank you. And I have the last question from Diego Hernandez. It says, what factors could affect special admixtures in concrete, affect the durability and safety of the construction?
So what factors affect the durability, you mean, or?
Yeah.
So there are many things that can affect durability. The first is the material, second is the mix design, third is the placing, the corrosion of the steel. How do you protect the steel from corrosion? Depending on the environment where you are. If you are in a place where you have cold weather, then cold weather freeze and thaw will come in. If you are in a hot weather, then you have corrosion, especially in a humid environment. So it depends where you are. You have to adjust your mix design and your protection of the concrete accordingly, according to the environment where you are. But mostly corrosion is, in our area in the Middle East, corrosion is the big problem. And to fight corrosion, you need to have low water cement ratio in the mix design to make sure you have enough protection, whether it's silica fume or other materials to reduce the permeability coming from airborne salts and chlorides into the concrete and attacking the steel. So that's the main concern when you are in the Middle East, even in Mexico in some areas, when you are close to the ocean and with the heat that you have in some times of the year, you need to make sure that corrosion is not going to affect your durability of concrete.
Okay. Thanks so much. Those are all the questions we have. Now I want to bring to turn over with Jose Lozano. He wants to thank you about this presentation because we know he was the first one that contacted you to make this possible. So, Jose.
Thank you very much, Jose.
Thank you, Khaled. Thank you very much. We appreciate a lot this presentation. Since the first time I saw it in the Cincinnati convention, I believe it was, I was impressed with this work, with these jobs, and with this concrete challenge and the construction and civil engineering challenge. And I thought that it will be an incredible experience for us to share it to our dear colleagues of the ACI Northeast chapter, and all to Latin American chapters, that maybe we have some people from South America also listening to you. So I was really impressed about that, and this is really a record breaker job you have there, dealing with this incredible challenge to fight against the time, to fight against the pandemic, to fight against all the logistics, to bring all the materials and everything, and to work in so many different fronts at the same time. It should be really exhausting, and we appreciate a lot this conversation, this presentation, and I hope that you will share with us some other things about what you are doing, because I know that you're involved in very, very interesting and challenging projects always. And I really thank you 1,000 times for this presentation, and I hope to see you soon in the next convention, virtual convention, but we'll see each other.
Yeah. Well, thank you for the opportunity. I really appreciate. Anytime I am invited to Mexico, I want to go. I mean, I had an excellent experience. I have never seen the hospitality that I have received in Mexico during my ACI presidential trip. So I look forward to coming again. Thank you for the opportunity. And I have a lot of friends in Mexico, and I hope you enjoyed the presentation, and look forward to working and presenting with you again.
Thank you very much, Khaled.
Thank you.
Welcome here. Again, thank you so much for your presentation. There were around 100 persons connected during your presentation. I hope every one of you enjoyed it, and approach to invite you to join us to become local member. We are always working to bring you as much information and knowledge as we can. You can follow us on Facebook, and you can visit our webpage to know about the different activities we will have during the year. So thank you so much, Khaled, again.
Thank you.
It was an amazing presentation.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Muchas gracias a todos por estar aquí con nosotros. Esperemos que haya sido un evento que les haya interesado. Cualquier cosa, pues esperemos ahí nos puedan seguir acompañando, aprovechando el tema de la virtualidad. Veo que aquí hay gente de la Ciudad de México, entonces, como dicen, la virtualidad te acerca a quienes no están tan cerca. Entonces, muchísimas gracias a todos por acompañarnos. Estén al pendiente, va a seguir habiendo más actividades, y esperemos haya sido de su agrado. Que tengan muy buen día. Gusto saludarlos.